back. Except Ms. Crable, we'll go ahead and start. Back in open session. Excuse me, the next item is the personnel report. Do we have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, please, any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Passes, personnel. Passes 5-0. Second, we have the digital certificate contract for technology. Entertain a motion to accept that. 5B.
B, I have a question on that.
Okay, go ahead.
So, I was looking for the attestations, and they're not attached. And, one of the things I always look for when we're looking at school improvement teams is, not only did we have the meetings, but who is attending, and making sure that our parents are represented, and the meetings are held at a time when parents can come to that. So I was wondering if we have those attestations that we can have attached to look at.
That's fair.
Oh, I'm sorry, that,
Am I looking at B? I'm looking at B, right? School improvement teams?
no, you're looking at the digital
Digital
certificate contract for
Oh, I'm on
technology.
the wrong one. Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, like, I don't know.
The other direction. The other direction, Anita. Keep going, keep going. Okay. No, I'm good with that, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
I was like, I've
Yeah,
never
yeah.
seen that right. I was like,
No, yeah, no,
I don't have
sorry.
anything for you.
Good. That was your question, love.
Okay. So is there a motion to accept? Is
So moved.
there a second? All right. Any other discussion? Not all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Passes 6-0. Carrying on with the Head Start Grant Award Notification.
I wish I was here on discussing a different issue besides this, but we need to be transparent, and I'm going to talk about the Head Start Award. So we do know, do I do it? This- So we do know that we've been very transparent in communicating this out to our board members, as well as our policy council. So in May 2023, the program was notified, and the Head Start Liaison Report and Policy Council was informed that we were going into competition. In December, we approved the competitive grant for Head Start, December 14th, or December 7th meeting. In February, Dr. Faustin's team had a board memo with dates in regards to the competition grant. And then in May, conference call with our ACF staff member to notify us that another agency was competing against us. And then recently learned that our competitor was awarded the grant. So, thank you. So we are very fortunate to have continued partnerships to continue services for our youngest learners in New Hanover County schools. And as you can see, we are still the acting agency for NC Pre-K state funded. And we have a superb relationship and partnership with our county commissioners who advocate and put in their strategic plan preschool. Huge supporters of preschool. Title I funding, and Smart Start State grant that I apply for yearly basis to help supplement some of those services. So the Head Start grant cycle, it's a 5-year cycle. So unless you go into competition, you write for the project every year, but you're granted the 5-year grant. If you go into competition status, then it opens it up to other agencies even outside of your county and state. So it allows, once you go into the competitive state or status, it allows for agencies not within our state to compete against us. And what we do know is that there are national companies that hunt for these grants on a national level. I compare them to like headhunters. And we did confirm that our competitor wrote for Early Head Start, which is infant and toddlers for our community. And we also do know that they have to serve our children in our community. So we are now we were put in the competitive status in May. Thank you, friend. So while we remained hopeful to continue the opportunity to receive and be awarded Head Start funds, we started doing some planning, which was necessary to do, and that's what our team has started to work on. We started working on projections of the what if, still remaining hopeful, and really not realizing anyone would compete against us is very genuine across our district family. So what we know right now, but I want to stress that we are continuing to work on as a team. This, is a very preliminary slide, 2023, 2024, to projecting 24 to 25. Again, preliminary budget. At this point in time, I know we are committed as a district and a board that we are going to continue to offer more support for our preschool classrooms. As you see, our commitment is for 522 students for next school year, currently. But I can assure you, we are not done with looking at every opportunity we can, because we know we are the foundation for the learning and very important to the district's growth. We are committed to serve those children that are returning to our program and the highest risk. This is the score sheet criteria eligibility provided to us as an agency. We are going to continue to serve the highest needs students. And we are going to assure that within the 522 students, all of our returning children will be served within our district. Next slide.
Any questions? Board members?
Well, it
Bradford?
says, all currently placed children will be served in the upcoming school year, but then on the slide before, it says 23-24, 764 students served, 3 and 4-year-olds, 46 classrooms. On the other side, it says 522 and 29 classrooms. So how does that jive?
So I can help you with that one. So those 4-year-olds become 5-year-olds, and they go to kindergarten.
Oh, so there's less kids.
So we have, yes, thank you, sir. So we have students rising up to kindergarten, and we have our 3-year-olds that are returning next year as 4-year-olds. and they will be placed within our school district in our preschool program.
So it's safe to say that the 2-year-olds now that are rising into 3 could be somewhere else?
Yes. They would not serve 3-year-olds. It would be infant and toddlers to 2.5-year-olds, which in our community would raise the curiosity of what would happen to our 3-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to, I believe, our slide 3 with our partnership with our commissioners is important because we're eligible to serve 3-year-olds with that funding source.
Ms. Walker?
So my question is, this is mainly for Dorothy Johnson, that's where the Head Start funding is, and I guess we're worried about the kids that are in the system right now, the 4-year-olds. How do we get the funding for that? Like, could we look for Title I funding? Like, how could we do that? How could we do we need to apply for grants? Do we need to ask commission? Like, what do we need to do? Because we need to fund it. It needs to be fully funded, and it's not. I know you've got some probably good ideas. So I would love to know your thoughts.
We're working on that.
Right.
And I'm stretching myself as well to see what's available out there. In addition, we have some upcoming meeting sessions that priority is, to serve as many students as we can within our limited budget. We are not universal pre-K yet.
Right.
We are very grateful to have these partnerships and a school board that continues to serve preschool students because we know, and we'll hear next week, the impact. That is some amazing data that you will see for kindergarten readiness. But we are committed as a district family. Reviewed it yesterday, and I felt very confident that this team was on deck to any additional funding that we can look at within our community, within our agency. Finance team's working very closely with me because we want to serve these children, and we will the returning ones, but we're not only talking about positions, but we're talking about kids.
Do we know what we're short? Okay, sorry.
Ms. Crable?
So, the one slide that you showed us that said the 46 classrooms this school year and 29 classrooms projected for next school year. So, that's a lot of classrooms that are being eliminated. And that is a lot of people, teachers and TAs that are associated with those classrooms. So, and it takes a very special certification to teach pre-K. So how are we thinking to address that? Will that be talked about later in the budget, or is it now an appropriate time to look at that? So that's like 15 classrooms. So that's 30 people, right? It's 46 minus 29, not 15?
It's 15 classrooms that were Head Start funded, yes, ma'am.
Right, okay.
So we have currently 10 vacancies in the pre-K, so 10 of those individuals.
Okay, so we're down to 20. 20.
And so that's, we'll just like filling those holes in. If those 3-year-old positions, if they're not there, remember, if there's no one in there, of course, that frees it up. But if 764, those 4-year-olds are going to our schools.
Are going to kindergarten,
And
right.
so it's the 522 that we'll have.
Okay, but so do we have any idea how many students that really is? Like how many, I know we have a big, long waiting list, so we're just telling those people that there's no room on the waiting list? I mean, there is room on the waiting list, but there's no room for them at the end.
So we've sent out communications, when you look at the slide, the timeline, to our families and our staff. So the families that were placed will be served within our school district for preschool. So those that got you've been accepted will be served. And we put a pause on enrollment until we learned more from our Head Start federal government at the Washington DC office. And when I say recent information, it is recent. The communication would have been much helpful if it would have been, if they could have communicated in a timely manner. This puts our enrollment office and our staff a little bit at ease, but we can say with confidence that those that were placed will be served.
Ms. Bradford?
Ms. Nelson, would you address the teachers? Because what happened in the meeting last week, was it Tuesday? I can't remember. That put a panic out in the community, and the teachers, at least one, has reported that they had a Zoom call and they were told, you don't have a job, pack up your stuff, go by the school and get your stuff. So how are you addressing the teachers?
That's very interesting. I was a part of that Zoom meeting. So we are having a follow-up meeting with, again, senior leaders, Dr. Barnes and his team, and we are doing an in-person at 1:30 tomorrow at Johnson, as well as a Zoom invite provided by myself and submitted to everyone that was housed or worked at Johnson Pre-K Head Start Center. And basically, it was, well, I mean, last week's conversation was very brief, but what I heard was, we're going to assure you that we're going to have some type of a position available for you to not pack up. I did not hear pack up your items, which would be, you know, completely unprofessional, but not only that, but they're cleaning the building right now. I don't know how that would work. I believe I heard an employee ask if she could come get her personal items. And so at this time, you know, we're not there yet. But we are meeting again tomorrow, and I can defer any questions to our senior leaders that would be interested to elaborate on that. But I feel like we've been, as quickly as we learn the information, we've been sharing it. I can assure you of that.
Yes, and I'll be attending both meetings tomorrow, and they will hear the same information that all of our staff has heard about our goals to make sure that everyone can, you know, fund their pension, feed their family, have a job if they want it. We'll be working directly with folks who may need to shift from one school to another, but we'll be clearing all of that up tomorrow, and I'll be a part of that meeting as well.
Anybody else?
But how much do we need to come up with or find in our budget to help this year with students that are short with the funding from Head Start?
Like the Johnson Pre-K
Yeah.
Center that would remain with 7 classrooms. We're working on that,
Okay.
and that's on the slide. Ashley and me, along with some of our other smart colleagues, are really working to maximize our funds. There are some very crafty ways and smart, intelligent ways to do some combining of funding to maximize those funding sources, as well as we've been very low ratios. So we're going to have 18 students in a classroom, which you're allowed to have 20, which is still high quality, even if they're 3.
I just say, you mentioned Title I funds, like, I feel like you could look at that in the budget, maybe. I don't know.
Anything else?
Title I funds.
Yeah.
If not,
I mean, but, right, maybe we can find some more. I mean,
Say that
are we
again?
able to shift that around, like Title I? Sorry.
Oh, where is it now?
I was asking that.
any other questions for Ms. Fox?
She was going to answer, but actually was going to say something about Title I funds.
So,
I was just going to say, yes, Title I funds can be used for pre-K. However, we currently have a plan for our Title I budget. Some of those funds does include some funding for pre-K. However, we would have to reduce in other areas if we were to use that money for pre-K instead. So we would just have to think through that.
Yeah, we want to have these babies in classrooms.
That's right, that's what we need
Yeah.
to.
And thank you so much for tonight. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you, Ms. Miles. We'll continue on with attestation of school improvement team meetings 23, 24.
First of all, I apologize that earlier you noted it was not on the linked there, so we are looking into why that is, but I will speak about it and then we will follow up and share it with you. So the attestation is required by legislation for us to provide you evidence that all of our schools have completed their requirements as school improvement teams. So what that means is that every principal has signed their attestation that their school improvement team has met on a regular basis, that their meetings were open for parents and families to join, and we are very appreciative for all of our families that serve on the SIT teams with our staff. So we have a large document that has all of their signatures. There's no vote or anything required. We just provide that to you as part of the law as evidence that we have completed our SIT team requirements.
So when do you think you might have that posted?
I do not have an answer for that yet. We have it ready, and I'm not sure why it didn't quite get on assembly, but
Okay.
I am actively trying to get an answer on that.
Ms. Bradford,
When are we done with this?
any questions? If not,
Comment.
go ahead, Mr. McManus.
I'm just appalled that we're having this discussion. We have money in this county. We have an endowment. The most crucial years, research says, are these kids in pre-K, K, and what. I just can't believe they want beating the doors down.
Thank you, sir.
All
All right, we'll carry on with.
In terms of the agenda,
D.
item C, local history, I'm the one that brought that. I would move that we hold it off a month. It's not urgent, and we're running out of time.
Okay. So let's take a quick vote on that. So as the local history, Seabreeze, and Freeman Beach, let's put that on.
And we need a whole vote, we need
Yeah,
a
I know we're gonna vote, yeah.
supermajority, because
Yep.
we're changing the agenda.
Yep. So, the motion is to put that on the August,
Agenda review meeting.
agenda review.
Maybe I'll have
We
the
do need a
slideshow by
supermajority to do that, to changing the agenda. So all in favor, please signify by saying, so again, deleting what we have as item D. Oh, do we have a second?
I'll second
Okay,
that.
second.
Yeah.
All in favor, please, of.
And postpone to
moving it-
when?
Next
July
August?
25th?
Yeah, July, the August,
Agenda review.
agenda review. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, we'll put that off. Next, I just need to read this. This is the Myrtle Grove Middle School Settlement Agreement. In June 2017, the school district entered into a construction contract for renovations at Myrtle Grove Middle School. The contractors and subcontractors who provided services and products involved in the project were Monteith Construction, Monteith, A.B. Denning Incorporated, A.B. Denning, Bowling, Murray, Hemingway Architects, P.C., and Lobo Wakal, LLC. Part of the scope of the renovation project included the preparation for and replacement of the flooring throughout the school. After the renovation project was completed, the school noticed excessive moisture, which necessitated replacement of the flooring and carpet. The school district believed the excessive moisture and flooring issues were due to product and installation issues from the renovation project, which the various contractors and subcontractors have denied. In an effort to resolve the dispute, the parties had a pre-suit mediation in February 2024, which eventually led to a resolution of all disputed issues regarding the renovation project. The settlement agreement provides a summary that Monteith, Denning, BMH, and Wakal would each perform certain tasks to replace the carpeting and flooring at the school. As set forth in more detail in settlement agreement, those tasks include removing the existing flooring and carpet, providing and installing certain installation materials, purchasing and supplying new flooring and carpet, issuing a warranty against interior concrete slab moisture penetration for the moisture barrier product, and a construction logistics and planning. Because this renovation now includes upgraded products that were not used in the original project and require certain concrete slab preparation, the board will pay for costs for the concrete slab preparation due to this upgrade. The board is also responsible for furnishing and installing any wax on the new floors. So that's just notification. It has been read.
Do we need to vote?
I don't think there's any vote required. No. Okay, so the next item is legal services contract. We have that in front of us.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the 6-month contract starting July 1, 2024, and ending with December 31, 2024.
Okay, we have a motion for a 6-month contract. Is there a second?
Second.
First and second, any discussion? Ms. Cradle?
I don't know how we do, well, I'll just wait to vote no, because I want a year. I think that well, first of all, we attempted to do this with Vogel, and everybody changed their mind 1 month in. So, and to use another board member's analogy was, all of our contracts are 1 year, so why would we not want to do a 1 year?
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, Ms. Blue, would you please call the roll? This is again for a 6-month contract for the Crosley, McIntosh, Collier, Hansley, and Eads legal service. I think I said that right.
Ms. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. McManus?
Yes.
Mr. Wildebohr?
Yes.
Ms. Bradford?
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
No.
And Ms. Craybill?
No.
Okay, that passes 1, 2, 3, 4 to 2.
Mr.
Yes.
So I'd like to make a second motion that, that we change the wording in that contract to be, I don't know where we put it, maybe in, I don't know, you can help me out, Ashley, where it goes. I think we need a clause that says that on the invoices, they must ID clearly the person who is billing, either by full name or a legend of initials, because we had a problem with that over the past year on our invoices. We don't know who's billing what.
Okay. Is there a second?
That motion was kind of long, so it's
The
basically.
motion is that we include a clause wherever it's appropriate, IDing, requiring that on the invoice, the person doing the billing is clearly identified by first name, by full name, or by a legend of initials.
Yes, I'll second that.
Second. Any discussion? I think we can do this way. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No.
Okay, that's again, a 4-2. All right, carrying on, because that ends that discussion. Where am I? There we go. All right, next is the budget draft. This up. 2 minutes, I can do it.
The budget draft document has been uploaded into Assembly, and I do have printed copies if that makes it easier. Would it be easier to have the printed copies? Thanks, Chris. And so these are the exact same documents that are in Assembly. I just printed them in case that was helpful. The first document that you have there is a one-page document, and then the second behind that is the budget draft document. And this includes, as we discussed last week, that draft does include the additional 5.5 million increase in the county appropriation. And as we had talked about also last week, when developing that budget, we included as part of the 5.5 million, we used those funds for additional 29 classroom teachers and 47 EC teacher assistants. So this is kind of a repeat of what we talked about last week, but I just wanted to make sure that I communicated that this isn't a change. This is the same documents that we've been looking at. as shared last week, we'll need to set aside $2.3 million of that county increase to help pay for or to cover the salaries and benefits of our employees until our target number of employees is reached in each category. The first page of the information that you received is the black and white one-page document. That's the document that includes the budget option that the board asked me to prepare. That was for 17 EC teachers, 12 AIG teachers, and 11.85 EC teacher assistants. I know that's a weird number, but that was the number to get to the $3.1 million that we talked about. I included in that budget option as many teacher assistants as I could until I, got to that dollar amount. I was also asked at the end of that meeting to include the cost of one pre-K teacher and a pre-K teacher assistant, so you guys would just have that information for the cost of those two positions. So that's also included in that one-page document, and that one-page document is also included in Assembly as electronic document. I wanted, if you don't mind, I would like to share a couple more things with the board. Without the budget flexibility and the ability to move and start moving the employees around into vacant positions, a reduction of force is unavoidable at this time. And so I wanted to make sure I shared that. The impact of...
Did you repeat that?
Yes. Without budget flexibility, and the ability to move employees into vacant positions, a reduction in force is unavoidable at this time. And I'm going to let Chris follow up to my comments because he'll be able to give a little bit more information about what do I mean when I say flexibility. The impact of a reduction in force can be minimized if the board allows flexibility to use the increase in county funds to allow for more time to balance staff, qualifications, and available vacancies.
Can you say that again?
Yes. The impact of a reduction in force can be minimized if the board allows flexibility to use the increase in county funds to allow more time to balance staff qualifications and available vacancies. I'm going to let Chris, because I was going to try to give a comment about the flexibility, but I think he'll be able to say it a little bit better than I.
Actually, Dr. Barnes, if you give me just 1 second, we are right at 4 hours. So I would entertain a motion either to adjourn or a motion to continue until we get through the rest of the
Discussion.
discussions. That's a good point. Right now we have policy 7300 and 3200. I think we can push the upcoming meeting dates until next week. And again, that'll push us over, but at least it would even up the time. So
When could we do budget if we do adjourn?
We have to have a budget, we have to have a budget this week.
Yeah.
Taken, it's so quickly we have to do,
Yeah, I'm not happy, but I have an appointment. I can't
I'm
miss.
open to whatever y'all want to do.
Well, if anybody has to leave, we still have a quorum.
Right. So,
I move that we extend the budget discussion by 15 minutes and we cancel the rest of it. Lay it on the table, sorry.
at the table.
Yes, sir.
We did not.
Till the next meeting.
I think we
Or
really do
proceed.
need to discuss 7300 and 3200 tonight.
Okay.
Lay it on the table means we don't have to come back to it. It should be postponed. Unless we're going to say we don't feel the rest of the need to come back to any of the stuff that's on there.
Great, well, we have a motion in front of us to, Ms. Bradford has mentioned, to just finish the 24-25 budget and lay everything else on the table. Is there a second?
Mr. Chair, lay on the table was just say we don't have to come back. Are we going to come back to it I guess we need to say when we're coming back to it. To our next meeting, is that what you just said?
Which will be next week. But, that's,
but we're already at 4 hours, so we,
Go over too. You don't hear yourself.
yeah, and that really sucks that I can't be
Yeah,
here,
I know.
because we've got a lot of important things that we have to be talking about.
We do. Okay, again, we have a motion to extend 15 minutes to finish the budget discussion and then lay everything else on the table. Is there a second?
I'd like to amend that motion that we take whatever time we need to finish the budget, so that we're not ending.
Okay.
And coming back is just forbidding us under 15 minutes.
Okay. So that's your, is there a
That's
second?
my amended
Yeah.
motion is to finish the budget discussion.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have first and second to finish the budget discussion and then I guess to postpone everything else. Okay? Is there any discussion? So we're going to first vote on Ms. Crable's amendment, which was seconded by Ms. Bradford, to finish the budget discussion. Any other discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that passes 6-0. Now we'll go back to the original motion, which is just to continue 15 minutes, which we amended that. So.
I withdraw.
So withdraw. Okay, very good. All right, so we will finish the budget, and then we will put the others on for next week. Policy 7300 and 3200, boarding, upcoming board meeting dates, task force update, and gifted advisors. We can wait for that? Okay, all right,
And then I can share that information
okay,
with you guys so you can see.
all right. Back to Dr. Barnes.
Good evening. And any examples I'm giving obviously is not an indication of the board or anybody at staff believing we should be having one less position of this or that. I know that just, I have to be able to give you examples, and it's not intending to speak to any specific group of people. We've talked before about how different groups of employees attrition at different rates. We will lose more bus drivers than we may lose AIG teachers in a given period of time. We have about 4 places where the attrition has not balanced against what our budgeted number of staffing positions for next year is in those categories. Those places where we still find ourselves a little heavier than we can be are teachers who have a K-6 license, and that's a very large bucket. That includes a lot of our instructional coaches, it includes a lot of our AIG teachers, and of course all of our elementary school teachers. So that's one place we have an attrition down to the appropriate number yet. Bus aides, TAs, and social workers. So those 4 areas we're finding we have not attrition down to our balance point yet. Our goal is to be having the flexibility to be able to start placing people into vacancies that we do currently have. We have a number of vacancies that are sitting vacant because we haven't yet done the process that we do every summer of moving people from one school to another. If we can do that, we'll begin to see that number of positions come down, because we will start moving people into appropriate, I hate to say it, but the marbles will start going in the holes. But that may mean that employee who is a 3rd grade teacher at, again, not any school, Varnum Elementary, they're overstaffed by 1 position. DeWald Elementary has a vacancy. When I can move the teacher from there to there, we've balanced that vacancy. So what we need is that flexibility to start putting people, into those jobs where there are vacancies waiting, and then reassess to see where we are in regards to how many more do we have to shift. But I will tell you, the flexibility that Ashley is speaking of is to be able to carry more social workers than we had on our budget until that social worker number comes down. To carry a little more of our bus aides over into next year until that number comes down, and allow it to naturally reach its own number. Elementary school teachers will move into a lot of different areas easily, but social workers can only do social work, if that makes sense. So the money that isn't earmarked for, or is earmarked for these positions we want to increase off the budget next year, we need that money right now to get all of our numbers down, and then we can build that back in at that time, if that makes sense.
Ms. Graybill?
So, okay, I understand that that statement. When we said that reduction in workforce is unavoidable at this time if we don't allow for more flexibility from the above list, even though that is what we said our priorities were. So I started looking at, and I may be way off base, and I sort of threw this out to you, Dr. Barnes. Do we have, a lot of times companies will offer you retirement packages, to leave. And can we use the discontinued service retirement benefit that is, it's offered by the North Carolina Total Retirement Plan Organization? Can we use that to entice some of our employees that may be this close to getting 30 years and full retirement, to get them to go ahead and retire early, knowing that they will still get all their retirement benefits as if they were getting 30 years? Maybe I'm reading that wrong. But do we have something like that? I don't want anybody to feel pushed out, but do we have that option?
And that's honestly why I haven't explored that option, because it doesn't feel, I don't want an employee to feel like pressure to make one choice or another, right? So we haven't explored that. Now, you first brought this to me today, so I haven't researched it
an hour
much.
ago, but
I will say the reason why all of us have been reluctant to explore a reduction in force is the associated costs with that, because we're required to pay for that employee's health insurance for a year, as well as front the cost of their unemployment. And that's somewhere between $12,000 for a certified employee, about 10 to 10.5 for a classified employee. So we would still have to pay that, even if they no longer worked for us.
But then, like, if we're looking at, if I may, if we're looking at the list on Social Security, retirement, health, those are some large numbers that you have written on here. Is it not cheaper to allow a person that is just hanging on so that they can get 30 years? Is it not cheaper for us to do that? Like the golden parachute, the retirement plan that many companies that are not school systems, but other companies do.
Yeah, I can research that. I just haven't to this point, because it's not something we normally engage in.
I know we don't normally, but we're not in normal times.
But we've done that in other districts where I've worked, but we don't have the funds set aside to do it. You have to almost like buy them out. So you say, for an additional $5,000, I'm going to give you a bonus to go ahead and do your early retirement, but you've got to pay that. That means you've got to dip into, you can't pay them with your state funds, because state is only going to do, you can't. So you've got to dip into your your local funds, and your local funds, our local funds are already earmarked. So yes, if that were, if we had a larger fund balance, then you could do that. But you have to have the money to actually be able to do that. And the 5.5 that's extra is all accounted for, and even though there's money that will drop back in, but that money's got to be used to keep the payroll going until budgets are settled at the state and at the federal level.
Is this one of those things that Commissioner Zappel was referring to when he said, whatever you need, we're going to help you get to, out of your fund balance? Don't worry about having your fund balance, at zero, because we're going to help you. So is this worth an ask?
We are at June 25th.
I know.
And July 1, we have to lay off if we don't have a budget. So we don't have time to go, because we have to pay people, and so we can't carry all of that over, so we've got to.
It sounds like we're going to have to lay people off anyway.
No, what she's saying is if you do that, we don't have any flex. The more time that we waste, and I shouldn't say waste, the more time that we spend, we don't have a budget right now. So the organization has to continue to function, but we are running out of time because we don't have a signed-on budget for the 24-25 school year, because that budget ends on, the business day is in 2 days.
Friday, yeah.
In 3 days.
So is it fair to say that in order to not lay people off, then our budget priorities have to go by the wayside.
If I can
Well,
speak.
she was also saying is that to free it up is like, okay, not everyone comes in cases, like those
Right.
AIG teachers don't come in cases of 15 or
Right.
whatever. It's like to allow it to work its way out. And if she has the ability to look at the dollars and say, okay, this is where you can put this. We don't know that yet because the hardest part about this one is one, that we're on a restricted budget. And then the other part is that we are having to forecast, and the General Assembly has not made up a mind yet. So we don't know. We're saying 4%, but if they say 5%, that's an additional $1 million. So what we're hoping is that, of course, I've said this, that we want people to get raises, but we've only budgeted for 4%. But if they come back and say it's going to be 5%, it's
Then
going to be
we're- yeah,
tough.
we're-
And so what happens is when that happens, it increases the retirement, it increases the Social Security, it increases those other dollars that individuals don't actually see, but we pay for on the backside. So we're in a tough spot right now because we are almost at the ninth hour.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Bradford?
Is it possible to make a motion to allow the flexibility for the staff to start moving separate from approval of the budget at this moment?
We won't have a budget, we won't be able to pay anyone. We'll just be moving people around, but we won't be able to pay them.
Yeah. So what I did hear were we were not be able to avoid laying people off. That's what I heard at the very beginning.
Yeah.
So
Can we
if
get
we
a
don't have a
number?
budget, if we don't have a budget, we have to lay off.
I thought I just heard it was unavoidable.
If
Y'all
they
not hear
don't
that?
get the flexibility
No,
to
I get
start.
that. I'm just saying, we started out 279 positions. We're doing all the subtractions. We got 5.5 million. We've given our priorities, like, how many do we know are going to be lost? That's what I'm trying to find out. Whatever with the flexibility. I mean, I know that's a little bit of a different conversation because we have given you our priorities, like Ms. Crable had just said. And unless we have the flexibility to fill whatever with the marvels, I just want to find out in the end when it all comes through, because if we're getting ready to vote on a budget, I would just like to know
Dr. Barnes?
what we're losing, who we are losing, what people.
Right. So I'm still firmly hoping that we don't have to lose people without naturally losing. So, yeah. My point is, and I'll just give an example, and I'm not using this example to say this is what I think we should do. So we have budgeted for a certain number of regular education TAs next year. I'm currently 27 heavier than our budget number. So what we're asking for is the priorities that you guys have given us, ECTAs, teachers, if we can use that money to level everybody down over time, then we can avoid that reduction in force. Now, I also have you're talking about, again, 27 regular ed TAs. I may have 4 or 5 vacancies throughout the district that if I have the flexibility to begin moving people, I can start filling those holes and bringing those numbers down. And then each category, again, the ones that I feel like we're heaviest with, elementary school teachers, TAs, ECTAs, and bus aides and social workers. I did TAs twice. Those areas, if I can start that shifting, we can start bringing that number back to where we can then invest in those priorities or get us to a place where the priorities balance the amount of money that we have. Does that make sense?
Ms. Mason?
So I'm trying to understand, if we take away the restrictions, it's possible that we won't lose EC teacher positions if the chips fall in the right place, correct?
What I think is going to need is we need a little more time for those not problem areas, I don't want to say it that way, for those target areas to come down to where they balance to our budget. So say we get to where we're 20 ECTAs over, well, that may be the balance point of where our investment brings those back, and we just stop right there. You know, we don't have to go all the way down and then back up, but we do have to let the attrition happen in those specific target areas that aren't as quick to attrition as other places.
Ms. Mason?
My concern continues to be the same. Our EC staff is already overwhelmed. It's hard to imagine that there's any overage in the EC department. And I think that was why most of the board really wanted to support that. And so my concern is if it doesn't happen, if the chips don't fall in, or the marbles don't go in the right holes or whatever.
Or it takes longer than.
Or it takes longer.
Yeah.
We have students that are losing out. We have EC teachers. We have ECTAs that are overwhelmed, and the concern also with legal issues comes up. And so that's what concerns me when I hear that we may need to loosen up our restrictions.
Ms. Bradford?
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on that. I'm feeling an enormous amount of pressure at this time of night to do this. And we have all those people out there in the community that are feeling the same amount of pressure, if not worse, because it's their position on the line. And yet I've had little to no input on this budget, just little to no. And I requested a line item. I got some information, but it wasn't the line item budget. And, you know, based on the comments that we're getting from the public, they think we've had an enormous input into this budget, and we haven't had any, really. You know, we've said constantly, we want you to fund our forward-facing teachers. We want you to look after AIG. We want you to look after EC. We want you to look after ECTAs. And here we are at this impasse yet again at the 11th hour when I'm trying to postpone an appointment that I have at 6:30. I'm feeling just an enormous amount of pressure, and I feel like everything we've said has fallen on deaf ears. And it's just very upsetting. And I know it's got to be upsetting for the people whose jobs are on the line. And I don't know why we're at this impasse. It's like we've got this blockage and we can't get above it to know what we're voting on.
So I can tell you why we're at the impasse. We don't have the money. We needed more money. All we have is 5.5 million, and the request that everyone that you're asking for is more than what we have. So we can't get that request because we don't have the dollars. And so that's what we are going back to. And the reason why we gave you a sample size of saying these positions cost X back in January, that was to get our budget to balance. Again, as I explained at the last meeting, if the board wanted something else at those times, it's like all you had to do is tell us, take this out, put this one in. We know that we only have the 5.5, so we can't go over that. And I get it, the people out there, they're still in positions. I know definitely Ashley and myself, we have been here late at night, early in the morning, not sleeping at night, because I've never not had a budget passed at this time, because this is tough. Trying to balance a budget and not have the funds to actually do it. And it's like, well, we want more, but if you want more, you got to take more out. That's all we've said the entire time. So we've kept our message the same. The problem is that we have to have more money to get what the board wants.
McManus?
The last time we talked, we asked for 2 meetings with the county commissioners, which we've never met with them. We asked for 2 meetings so that we could share where we are and where we aren't. And the last thing I heard was, no. And I suggested last time we ask them again. So, back to what I said earlier. I'm not going to vote for any budget that cuts any position. It's so paramount, the morale of this county. And the commissioners, I know this is going to make them happy, but they're going to have to own part of that. We're not a poor county. And nothing's more important than educating our students and keeping our teachers. And I don't care how many teachers you got. The morale sucks. There goes the academic and the focus and the loyalty. Just that simple. So either we do something or we say, no, we're not going to support the budget. Those you under the bus.
Well, actually, that's.
Okay, well, then, I mean,
If you don't pass a budget, then we have to lay off. That's the board. The board
it
of
sounds like we got to lay off regardless.
No, that's not what we said, and I don't know why, you didn't hear that right. They didn't explain that right.
I've heard it for months,
You
about
did
all
not.
the,
You
way
did
back,
not.
how many teachers we're going to lose. We even prioritized about 3 different times. So now we're not going to lose any positions?
That's not what we said. Through the natural attrition, those individuals who have already left, those positions are gone, is what we've said. What I'm saying is that if we don't pass a budget, we do have to lay, because we have too many on the budget for the 23-24 that we can't carry on because we didn't get the funding for it for the 24-25 school year.
I can't be the only one that's not hearing it that way, or haven't been hearing that way. Well then, tell us what the budget, what you need. Exactly, right now.
Tell them what they need.
Put us on the spot.
I'm requesting approval of the budget as presented. That would be my recommendation. The board did include, in the last meeting, you had priority positions. So if you would like to include those positions in the budget, as in that front document that I provided, I remember the ECTA number was lower because I ran out of money. If you would like to switch the positions that are currently in the budget with those that you identified, I can make that adjustment and bring that back. I am requesting that you allow us, that we would implement this budget, but I would request that you allow us to use flexibility and not use the additional money from the county as it is currently being used in this year's budget until the levels meet our target position counts, and then start hiring within the plan that the board has laid out. So is that clear? I know that was a lot, but the basic thing is if you could approve the budget as presented with whatever adjustments you would like to make to that, and I'm assuming it's the information, something from the information I provided in the one sheet today, and then just give us flexibility to use money as we need to make sure that employees their qualifications line up with the vacancies. And then once that happens, then we would start, the next things that get filled would be the board's priority items. And then after those positions are filled, the next thing would be whatever other vacancies are there that are in the budget.
Ms. Grable?
Yeah, so I was kind of expecting what you just said to be on these papers right now, for you to have already thought through all of that. Because Dr. Faust did tell us, if you want to insert these, we're going to have to export that. And so in reading, I mean, for us non-budgetary people, this is really hard, to go through, because you're looking through, you're looking down the list. And is there not any numbers that you can pull up now that says we have X number of people in this department, X number of vacancies, X number of people to slide in there, so we can kind of get a feel on how big that marble jar is and how big, how much Swiss cheese is going on with that. And I heard you say something, allow us to focus on our target. What did you just mention, something about a target? I'm thinking to myself, what is our target? We don't even, maybe I'll speak for myself. I don't know that I understand what the target is that you're talking about.
And again, just an example, In the budget, we have budgeted for 25 social workers for the district. We
Okay.
currently have, as of today, 38 or 39.
Okay.
That position is just attritioning slower to get down to 25. So really the question is we understand that the board's priorities, and our priorities too, obviously, are classroom teachers and ECTAs. Those are the two things, and supporting instruction are the things that our principals value as well and have asked about. The question is, do we go ahead and start shifting that money into TAs now and then have to reduction in force those jobs that are attritioning slower, such as bus aide or social worker? Or do we use the money right now until we balance and then go back and rebuild with our ECTAs and those, and teachers? Or do we find out that balance point between the two where we don't, it's foolish to bring all of our ECTAs down and then try to hire them back again. We need to find where that balance point is. But that's what has to be done if we don't want to lay somebody off. You know, now, of course, can we say, your job's now gonna be in this classroom supporting this person? You know, can we take those bus aides, just for an example, and then have them supporting schools in classrooms until we reach that balance point? Sure. So we can still address the needs that we're talking about. But it's the question right now of, do we find those places that are attritioning slower and lay those people off, or use this money to balance that until we find our point where our staffing balances our funding? I think is what I'm saying. Ashley, is that clear?
Okay. 1 week ago today, the superintendent said no layoffs. Here we are a week later. I'm going to take you on just a little bit diversion, because it seems to me the bottom line is we don't have enough money. Dr. Faust just said we don't have enough money. We don't have time to go ask the county commissioners for any more money. So I have been wanting to look inside our budget for any money that we might could identify. So I'm going to take you back to where I took you last week. I appreciate the information you gave us about at the meeting last week about curriculum. But in the meantime, we've got this many comments in our survey. That many comments. A large number of them are dissatisfaction by our teachers in the classroom with our curriculum. We have $2 million budgeted to take out of what we were paying from ESSER. We got $4 million in curriculum. We took that $4 million and we spent it, the ESSER money. But now we have, unbeknownst to me, a $2 million slide across every single year to uphold that curriculum. So by my calculations, if we add $2 million this year, $2 million next year, $2 million, we'll have $10 million invested in this curriculum by 27. And we have a ton of teachers who are saying, we don't like this curriculum, we don't want to teach this curriculum, we need to do something different. So